Welcome back to The Pulse. This afternoon, our first story, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, is this afternoon charging the John Dramani Mahama administration to attach the same seriousness and tenacity adopted in dealing with the energy sector challenges. Now, it deals with challenges facing the education sector as well. The education front is faced with a series of challenges, with high school struggling to feed students and colleges of education forced to postpone its reopening for the second time following turbulence on the industrial front. National Secretary of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Schools, Primus Barrow, said the situation in some senior high schools remain troubling, with many facing food shortages despite receiving limited supplies.
Are still in very dire situations, even with the with the supply of some food items. Admittedly, some food items have reached out to almost every school in this country. But I'm saying dire because what is actually needed to run or to feed the students is still woefully inadequate, especially for schools that are found in the northern belt and some in the middle belt and south. They still lack, apart from rice. Typically, if you take a place like Upper West, Upper East, apart from rice, they do not have any other cereal. You can't talk about maize. You cannot talk about millet. So it is rice and nothing more. You go to what is used to make the soup. Some schools, for a long time, including my own school, don't have a single gallon of oil. So my matron, for example, will rely on things like margarine to do, and the margarine is finished. Next week, if I don't get margarine, there will be nothing to stand in for oil. So the situation is we are still not out of the blues, and the situation is not a uniform situation. Some are a bit okay, others are okay, and some are still in dire needs. So that is how I can describe the situation as far as food is concerned. All schools in this country are in the position to be able to manage the situation. And the key word, the operational word there is manage.
And what manage here means what exactly?
You will just be able to provide something for the students. You'll be able to provide something that is available in your stores for the students. And like I gave an example of my school, I do not have anything apart from rice. So I'll be able to provide something rice, breakfast, lunch, and supper. And that is true for almost all the schools in Upper West and in Upper East. In some cases, they may have some other food supplements, other food items to supplement. So the situation generally is not too good. It is not up to our expected standards.
Well, General Secretary of the Ghana National Teachers Association has also charged the current government to collaborate with previous governments and take the matter seriously.
Now has the goodwill of the people, and it is my hope and expectation that they will not wait until this goodwill evaporates, because you see, there is something about goodwill. It is just a matter of time. If you do not manage the goodwill very well and the goodwill disappears, the rest will be anger, okay, and demonstrations, and it will be something that you cannot hold it. For the Ghana National Association of Teachers, the matters at the educational front, they are issues that are critical. They are critical, and we are hoping that the president will, as soon as possible, get these matters resolved so that we can take it out from there. Because any delay, look, we will be hearing rioting, demonstrating, and all those things in the schools. We all know the consequences of putting children in a house or in an enclosed place, and you tell them you will not give them. The churches have done their work. We have told the duty bearers that there is no food. If they sit back and allow this matter to escalate, then they should have themselves to blame. They should have themselves to blame, and that is why we are even talking about it. And I hope His Excellency will do whatever he can do. The same speed with which has been attached to the energy matter, the same speed should be attached to this particular thing. The same speed should be attached. When the energy matter came up, we have seen that suddenly committee has been constituted and everything is being done to get the matter resolved. I want to believe that in as much as we are hearing that the children have not eaten and not, I want to believe that the duty bearers will not be telling us that it is not something that is serious. They should not wait until venting our anger. No, you can't blame us.
Meanwhile, as many as 93% of respondents in a JoyNews WhatsApp poll are urging John Dramani Mahama-led government to review the free senior high school policy following escalating food shortages in senior high schools. The poll conducted on January 9 garnered 1,179 participants. My colleague Isaac Kofi Ajay joins me in studio with details of the poll results. Kofi, I definitely love it when you are in the studio. Right, what has really, let's even go to why you decided to conduct this poll.
Well, I mean, the free SHS program, according to the Afrobarometer report, is one policy that almost about 8 out of 10 Ghanaians, when interviewed, want it to stay. And in fact, it was actually on the lead up to the 2024 election. And you could realize that this is a policy that Ghanaians want to stay. And if you look at another question that was asked about review, the same, situation was that a lot of Ghanaians also were asking for review. So it was on the basis of this that we decided to look at this unscientific social media poll. And so we are not saying that this is the general view of Ghanaians, but the sample that we have is what we are speaking to the over 1,100 people who participated in the poll. And just like you said, about more than 93% of the participants said that, look, the free SHS needs some sort of review. We had about 36 saying that it should stay the same, or I think 43 saying that it should stay the same, and about 36 people decided not to, decline to answer to the question that we asked on social media, or to stay the same. And so, I mean, you could see that this is a policy that Ghanaians actually love, but in terms of how should it be implemented, Ghanaians also are asking for, review of the policy because they deem it to be appropriate. I mean, it should come. And if you look at the ministry's budget, for instance, education is one of the ministries that costs the country a lot, especially when it comes to the free SHS program. And maybe we'll be going to that angle, but what we are learning is that per the poll that we have done, about 93% of the respondents want some sort of a review to the free SHS program. Okay,
and so the 93 didn't even give reasons. I know it's a poll and it doesn't allow you to want to give explanations and all of that, but you have done a lot of work in terms of research and all of that. Let's classify it a little bit more. What really are some of the reasons that many Ghanaians have been raising why they think that it should be reviewed?
I mean, just like you said, because it's a poll, I mean, you are not able to, you don't have the luxury to quantify some of the views, but per the comments under that post that we put on social media, you could see that a lot of people were concerned about feeding. And then also the fact that that is the possibly the most expensive part of the whole free SHS program. And then also looking at the fact that this last year, for instance, we had a number of feeding stories around shortage of food in free senior high schools, and then also the fact that, remember the Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, alarm bell on expired food that was actually distributed in schools. So looking at the comment that we got from under the post, you could see that a lot of people were concerned about feeding, the cost of the feeding, and how children were being fed, because the bigger problem has to do with not just feeding people, but are you feeding them with food that is appropriate, or are they going to be well nourished and all of that. So the main challenge has to do with feeding, and that's what we can actually get from
the budget that was allocated to the ministry, previous government, you say that a big chunk of it went to feeding.
Feeding, especially if you look at the free SHS side.
Okay. Yeah. However, the institutional suppliers also say that there's some amount that is outstanding. And so institutional suppliers would include uniforms, stationaries, and all of that. And so that is even a separate budget.
Yes, it's a separate budget.
Right.
I mean, so you see that, I mean, looking at the Ministry of Education's budget, which is running into some 30 billion Ghana cedis, you will see that free SHS takes a huge component. It's more than 2 billion. You need more than 2.5 billion Ghana cedis to run free SHS every year. And you put it right. We've spoken about feeding, stationery, and other costs are very important. And and they weigh down the budget, because if you look at the free SHS program, if you're a day student, you are entitled to a meal. If you're a boarder, you're also entitled to a meal. And almost all the students, about 3.3 million students who have benefited from the program so far, have all enjoyed free, not just free tuition, free feeding as well, and then also they've not paid for textbooks and uniform. So you could just see or quantify the amount of cost that the government would have to bear in this period. Catering for the stationary cost of 3.3 million students isn't a joke.
Stay with me, okay? We're going to be doing this in a long while, but I'd like to take you back to Kanda, where my colleague Maxwell Agbagba is on standby. That National Prayer and Thanksgiving Day at the National Mosque had started a bit earlier, and Maxwell has a wrap of what has been happening. Okay, unfortunately, Maxwell is not ready, but we'll take you as and when Maxwell is ready to bring us a wrap of what's been happening prior to the president's delivery. But let's come back into the studio. Kofi, you have been letting us understand that if that 93% of the polls that you conducted represents the larger Ghanaians, this will mean that that's the whole country calling for a review of their policy. Now, you've also worked a lot, and we have seen that the government is setting up, the current government is setting up a committee to look at a holistic approach of the review. Top of your mind, really. This review should include what?
I mean, I think that the first person who gave us a clear indication of what possibly the NDC will do when it comes to a review was former Finance Minister Seth Tekpe. Unfortunately, he couldn't get to retain his job in Mahama's second coming. But you could see that he is really, keen on free SHS, especially the cost element, and saying that, look, if people can pay, allow them to pay. And just like the way the Mahama administration started a free SHS program and felt that at that point in time, I remember I was somewhere around, I think second year or third year in secondary school when I witnessed the free boarding, the free day student. I mean, if you were a day student, you weren't paying anything, somewhere around, I think, 2015 or so, when John Dramani Mahama started that program. And so they believe that make it progressive. Even if you want to make free SHS free entirely, it should be progressive. We should move from from the day student angle now to talk about even the boarding student. Because yesterday, for instance, I was actually, I actually visited one of the schools like Nungwa, SHS.
Hang in there. We'll go back to that, Nungwa SHS. But let me take you back to Kanda, where Maxwell is having a conversation with Muntaka Mohammed. Take a listen.
When you are giving us a day, it always serves as a dividing factor. And we cried to him, telling him that if it's turned into 2 days, it will help us to settle the issue of uncertainty with regards to the lunar calendar. And we are very grateful that he's made a promise and is assuring us that once Parliament settles, this is going to be sorted out. And we are forever grateful. One other thing that is very, very important to us, as you may know, as Muslims, a lot of people keep their money under the bed. You won't believe it, because they don't believe in a banking system that has interest and what have you. Now to have promised that Islamic banking is going to be permitted, I'm sure it's going to help the Muslim community not to keep their money under their beds, but to make them available for national development. Because as you know, the banking system is where people go to borrow to be able to develop. So when a lot of people are keeping their money under the bed, it disadvantages the nation itself. So to introduce a banking system that is Islamic is going to help us retrieve all the monies that people will ordinarily have placed under their beds. You know about our children and the ability for them to be able to get themselves educated. One of the reasons why there's so much poverty in our community is the lack of education. And one of the things that hindering the education, especially the girl child in the Muslim community, is this issue of their veil and the ability to be able to properly cover themselves. Now, yes, even the last time he was president, he was part of the fight to make sure that we liberalize it. I mean, I keep saying it. You go to a place like Islamic University and they want the Christian girls to wear veil. And I said, no, it's wrong. We are in a secular state. Just as the Christian girl or the Muslim girl should be permitted to wear her veil in a mission school or what have you, so should it be in an Islamic school. Don't force the girls to wear hijab. So with all this, we are very hopeful. It's going to bring inclusiveness. Because you go to our market, I mean, we sit as brothers and sisters without identification of who is a Muslim, this is a Christian. and we do everything in our homes. So we are very happy. Most of the promises that he made during the campaign is telling us and reassuring us it's going to be fulfilled. And we are very hopeful that in the implementation, we as people, the whole of Ghana, will unite to know that it is about uniting us, not dividing us.
Yeah. Before you go, we've had the first batch of ministerial, lists. We're still waiting with bated breath the announcement for the leadership of the majority in Parliament. I want to find out from you your take on these two, ministerial appointments and then the leadership in Parliament.
Well, these are processes. And I mean, he's saying that he's going to do all this within 2 weeks. So I think that it's only fair we allow the president some time. I mean, others have used more than a month to even do it. He's assuring Ghana that he will do this in 2 weeks. I'm very optimistic. Let's trust his judgment. I mean, he's made a lot of promises about 60 ministers and what have you. Let's not stampede him. Let's not push him. Let's allow him to reflect on what he wants to do. And I'm very optimistic that based on the capacities that he has within the whole lot, he knows where to place who, at what time and what role to play. So let's not stampede the president and let's just remain hopeful that we pray that he puts our best foot forward. And everybody acknowledges the first 3 ministerial appointments that he mentioned are solid. And we are all hopeful that they are up to the task, and we pray for wisdom and guidance that they will be able to perform. In much the same way, we are praying that the rest that may be coming will be our best foot forward, where we will be sure that we'll be able to carry the load that has been bestowed upon us.
Okay. But finally, before you go, who do you think should lead the leadership, in Parliament, the majority?
That's the decision of the party leadership and the caucus, and it will be too early to be stampeding. Let's allow them time to be able to sort all this. But I'm sure, at the end of the day, the right decisions will be made.
Okay. But you faced stiff competition in the Asawase constituency. Tell me, how were you able to pull through?
Well, people have always said that, and I've always said that, look, it's an opportunity to serve. And I believe that once you are sincere and very hardworking, the people will surely reward you. I'm only grateful for the people of Asawase to have continuously elected me 6 consecutive times. It tells you a lot of work has been done, a lot of trust. I mean, you keep to your word, you keep doing your best. Look, people do not expect you to solve all their problems, but they want to see the sincerity with which we are doing it, and the commitment and dedication. And I'm sure, over the period of these 2 decades, I've consistently shown, yes, I'm not capable of solving all the problems, but constantly I've shown with tenacity and effort and truthfulness and sincerity that I am there for them. And I'm sure that's why they rewarded me, and I'm also grateful to God and grateful to them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for talking to us. So you just heard from Asawase Member of Parliament, Munsaka Mubarak, the National Muslim prayer and Thanksgiving just ended here at the National Mosque at Kandap. Tomorrow, the Christian version of this will be taking place at the UPSA at 3 p.m. But very important announcements, very big announcements made.
Well, I see that my colleague there was just about to give you a quick announcement. We promise we'll take that announcement and deliver it to you duly. But back in the studio here on The Pulse, I've still got Kofi Ajay. Now, Kofi, yesterday, Kofi Asari of Education Watch made some suggestions and said that we asked the question of the feeding, which is a challenge. Should the government make it a new policy, all right, so that parents can at least pay a certain percentage of it? Could it be 20? 30. It shouldn't be that this is a clarion call. It's more than being a policy so that we go by it. Kofi Asari thinks that, well, he thinks that for the private schools alone, if their parents are made to pay for their food, that is at least 30% of the cost. And that is where we should start for. My concern, however, is that on the delivery of the quality-free SHS that we've been asking for, private schools have been asking that they are also included, because what they're doing is they're at least apparently helping the government.
Yeah.
Do you agree that in some of your findings and your readings, have you come across the possibility of allowing the private schools stay private and not getting help from government and still maintaining a quality that we're hoping to see in the public schools?
Well, I think we should start from the feeding aspect, where it isn't just about the money. It's not monetary alone. It's also about the supply chain, where almost at the moment everything is centralized and it is government and government alone. And the schools have become, like at the last end of the supply chain. And that has been the bottleneck it's a major issue. So if you take away the layer of cost and you know, other things. Supply chain is also very, very important. There are currently bottlenecks, and that has been created by the nature with which the past government actually ran the free SHS program. We know hitherto it wasn't so. I mean, headmasters and mistresses were within the equation. I mean, they were all in terms of the supply chain of the free SHS, of providing food to the senior high schools. Now you have just government and in a centralized point, and everything has to come from government. Even if you have you know, problems, you have to wait for government. And when you put it that way, and you do not put the headmasters and mistresses in the equation, when there's a challenge and they can even find alternatives, what they will do is that, well, we'll sit, because that is the problem of government. We'll sit and wait for government. They will keep sitting because nobody wants to commit their money and not get it back later. So I think that, first of all, we need to take that cap of centralization from the whole supply chain. Then we'll begin to talk about including private schools into the free senior high school you know, domain. I feel that the private schools should be kept out of the domain of the free senior high school. Now I'll explain why. Because for me, I think that they serve as a shock absorber to the free SHS program. We know, whatever the case, there will be certain things that certain parents will not like. And then the private schools are supposed to serve as a shock absorber for parents who are not happy with the process, who are finding alternative. But if the entire color is blue, then how about those who want green? How do they find it? So keep the private schools the same way it is. Maybe the best way to rope them into the free senior high school is to subsidize their operations. Right? So if government really want to bring in private schools, there is a way they can do it. Private schools are calling for help because of cost. So if they are calling for help because of cost, then government should look at that side of subsidizing private schools. Now, talking about subsidy, another question is that government have that fiscal muscle to carry out the subsidization. The simple answer is that it is difficult. Because I said that if you look at the 27 ministries that we currently have, the most expensive ministry to run is the education ministry.
Interesting.
It costs the state about 30 billion Ghana cedis to run the, Ministry of Education, right?
Okay.
Now, if you take away free SHS, you will see that the biggest cost component of, even if you segregate SHS, senior high school, let's say basic school and tertiary, it is the basic school that takes the biggest component. It needs more attention. So what happens is that because we have limited, resources, when you put so much attention to free SHS, what happens is that there's an opportunity cost on the side of the basic school who needs government the most at the moment.
Right.
So allow parents to come in, allow the PTAs to function the way they used to function. And I think that if you're able to do it that way, then we should be able to come to an equilibrium. It shouldn't just be government running the whole show. It should be a partnership between the PTA, government, and then even private persons who wants to come. The same way we want to look at the last aspect of ECG by privatizing it. I think that there's a room for privatization in terms of the whole free SHS agenda.
I think we're both looking forward to that committee that's been set up to bring another, maybe borrow the energy word, roadmap to reviewing the education sector as well. You will stay with me. Why? Because we will revisit the conversation of the 60 ministers as to how feasible it is. As Dr. Sasansi says, that the president can actually even run. He can actually even run the country with
19, right?
19. Yeah. Now the governance experts say that no, it's not feasible, because what's going to happen, and what we discussed the last time, it will create a hip or a balloon down there and then a small top. So a triangle kind of government. Yeah. And then, so we'll look at that data and how you've been looking at that. But still back on the education, some parents who called into the Super Morning Show yesterday were concerned and also strongly expressed their support for a review of the free SHS policy, advocating for financially capable parents to contribute to the awards fees.
Can pay, should be allowed to pay, and we should rationalize the process. How can
a buffer stock, go buy things and distribute the whole country when they can get, the schools can get it. Let us scrap the whole idea of buying from buffer stock. Let the schools go to their local market. So we have fed them from the local market before they came to school. There should be a special department maybe under GES to look at importing the importable items like the tin tomatoes and things they need to import, rather than giving it to people who add their profits to it. Somebody has to go into audit of who manages the supply of the food. You know, there are canteen people who are pilfering food. We know all over the years.
I have never ever understood why the country will say for somebody like Jospin, Sian, Dr. Sian of Japan, Ibrahim Mahama, Nana Akufo-Addo, their likes, and MPs and chief executives. I've never understood this, that their children should enjoy free education. They, at least, reasonably, they have some coins. They can pay their children's school fees. We have thousands and millions of them in Ghana.
This free SHS thing, the problems were there from day one. It was envisaged, professors of high repute have spoken, they were all shunned, they were insulted, and blah, blah, blah. Now we are back to the same problems and the same square. Well, the problems are there. Buffer stock here, food here, this here. The best solution is that Mahama shouldn't cancel it. It's already been brought upon Ghana. We have oil money. It shouldn't be cancelled. The schools should be day schools. More schools should be day schools. Once the day schools are there, people will be fed from the house.
Still on education and particularly on the feeding issues, Chairman of the Bono East Regional Chapter of Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, Charles Douglas Solomon Nyaman, has bemoaned the inadequacies in food commodities in the various senior high schools across the region. He noted that most schools are currently forced to feed students with unbalanced food items due to the shortage of some staples, and this, according to him, is adversely affecting teaching and learning. Anna Sabit visited the Ekumfi Amayao Senior High School earlier today and filed the report.
Senior high schools across the country have resumed after the Christmas holidays, with most schools plagued by financial constraints leading to severe food shortages. Here in the Bono East region, the situation remained dire, with almost all schools lacking some specific food commodities and students forced to eat one type of food item that is available in the school's food stores. Chairman of the Bono East Regional Chapter of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, who doubles as the headmaster of Ekumfi Amial Senior High School in the Techima North District, Nyaman Solomon Douglas, shares with us the food situation of the various senior high schools across the region, describing it as inadequate.
The food situation in the school is not adequate. I will use the word inadequate, but we have some amount of food in the school. In the region, we have 3 centers. For Techiman Center, we have rice. The major food that we have as at now, as I speak, is rice. So you can imagine that the food is one-sided. When you go to Nkransa, the same situation.
The situation means schools across the area are forced to feed students with unbalanced diets, and this, according to Mr. Nyaman, is worrying.
You have breakfasts, which is very light. Your expectation is that the lunch will be heavy and the supper will be heavy. But here we are, if you are taking rice for your lunch, in the supper, you are supposed to take, let's say, rice balls. It's the same food line item that you are supposed to take. So this situation is not helping issues.
Even though the Ekumfi Senior High School is currently having some amount of sugar, Mr. Nyaman says important commodities like flour, oil, beans, granules, amongst others, are out of stock for some time now.
We have some amount of sugar. What we lack currently is flour, oil, fritters, this is how they call it, but we have red oil. For beans, it is difficult to find. The reasons we get are that they are very expensive in the market. For groundnut, it's very difficult to find these days. If you have groundnut in your school, you can vary it for so many things. Groundnut soup, groundnut stew, so many things. But groundnut is difficult to get.
He adds that the absence of these commodities amounts to reasons why Charles is appealing to parents to support their wards with food items when coming to school to complement the little available.
These are the situations. And these are the reasons why we are saying that, pleading with the parents that anytime that you are coming with your child, try to give your child some little amount of biscuits, some money, shito, gari, and a little thing, so that when the child goes to the dining hall and the food is one-sided, the child could balance it when the child goes to the dormitory. Not that we don't have food. We have. Else the children could have gone home right long time. Some amount of food is in the school. But the adequacy of it is what we are talking about.
Despite the numerous challenges, Mr. Nyaman Solomon noted that management of various senior high schools are putting in place measures capable of helping provide students with the best education they deserve. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Techiman.
Still on education, residents of Asin-Jobin in the central region are taking matters into their own hands to ensure the safety of school children by constructing a 6-unit classroom block. Currently, students walk a considerable distance on a busy road to reach another community, Odumase, for their education. Parents and guardians are worried about the safety of their wards and are finding a lasting solution to this. Mohammed Nuruddin has more in the story.
The main street towards Asin Odumasi DA Basic School, a route many children take every day. While the school is closed for the day, this road continues to serve as a vital pathway for students, many of whom walk to and from school despite its risk. In recent years, tragedy has hit this very road. 3 children have been knocked down and killed by vehicle while on their way to school. Ajua Sofo is a former student.
5 school children were struck and killed by a vehicle while crossing a curved road on their way home from school. 3 of the children lost their lives in the tragic incident, which occurred 8 years ago when I was a child. I witnessed it at first hand, and the road remains extremely dangerous.
Ajua's words reflect the growing concern among residents. Local authorities, including community elders, share the same worry. Akosi Opong is one of the elders of the Asin-Jobin community.
Our children walk along this road, which is hazardous due to the many vehicles that pass by. Recently, a tragic incident occurred on this stretch when several school children were struck by a moving vehicle, resulting in some of them losing their lives.
For 4 years, Benny Sowusu has been teaching in a neighboring community, but like many here, she is deeply concerned about the safety of young children who walk alone to school.
I'm saying that because of the road. I mean, if you look at our city like Accra, you can see that they have, yes, pedestrian way from people that can walk. But if you look at this place, that one is not there. And then a child like this, I've been always complaining. If you ask my colleague, I've always complaining. Even me, myself, I cannot even walk from here to here. 10 years, 9 years, even 6 years. You'll be seeing them with this road. It's very dangerous. So at least if they have the school here, that one will help them.
At a recent homecoming event, funds were raised to begin constructing a 6-unit classroom block. The community is actively seeking additional sources of funds for the project, which will bring much-needed educational opportunities closer to the children of Asen Joabin. Nana Amponsa is the regent of Asen Joabin.
But I see any so I said, man, say, Asen Hayasha, Yene, your school.
The primary goal of organizing this event is to address the fact that Asen Joabin is the only community without a school. Building a school here will significantly contribute to the future development of our children. And when we are no longer around, these children will remember us for providing them with the opportunity to learn. Education is crucial, and without it, a person has no future. This is something we refuse to let happen to our children.
One of the community elders, Kwame Tibua, emphasizes the importance of education in any thriving society.
It is in your scratch and Kalano free as you walk. Jabihona, a bit me abwa.
Once the school is built, it will allow children to begin their education at an early age. This will also ease the burden on parents who currently have to take their children to the farm and market, as our community is primarily focused on farming.
But more support is needed. The community still requires at least 500,000 Ghanaian cedis to fully construct the 6-unit classroom block. Until that goal is met, children in Asen Joabin will continue to face dangers on the road to and from school. For them, safety is not just a wish, it is a right. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
You're watching The Pulse, so go for a quick breather. When we come back, we'll have a conversation on the promise of Mahama promising to run a lean government, possible or a political promise. Stay with us, we'll be back.